It's on vinyl and vision.
Hello, thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. We are back at you again with episode number 53 with my very special guest, Jared Mann. Jared Mann is a very talented musician. He's been in a number of bands locally. Most recently, he's in the band Twin Foxes. Basically, all of the bands that he's in are his bands. I mean, he is the predominant songwriter of the bands. So it's Twin Foxes, Willow, Great Western States. But not only is he a great musician and a songwriter, but a talented engineer as well. So he owns Distorted Forest Studios, which I was happy to go and explore a little bit for this conversation that we had this evening. Distorted Forest Studios is just a huge shed, huge garage. I think garage is fair to say. And it's a great space. He's been building it out. He's been kind of working on it. It's still a work in progress, but it's definitely up and running. And a lot of the bands that he has recorded there, I actually own a lot of those records, I've realized. And also, all of his own projects, like this one here, is Twin Foxes Sleeping on the Attic Floor. This is a great record. I picked this up locally at my local shop, Armageddon. And the new album is Broken Bell, which is still... I was a little confused when we were having our talk. The vinyl is still available for pre-order. You can... we'll link it in the show description and the show notes. But it's basically through their Bandcamp page, and you can still pre-order the vinyl, okay? So for the new album, Broken Bell. So, Jared is a very cool guy. I was very happy to meet him, very happy to have this talk. He decided to choose the album Jets to Brazil's Orange Rhyming Dictionary, which I was not familiar with, and I think is a very good record. I do actually like it a lot. We talk about that, so obviously you will hear my opinion in full of that record, and it was just great. It was a great talk. It was such a pleasure getting to know Jared a little better, and I hope to be seeing him again soon. So if you can please all do all those things you do with the internet, except that thing. Don't do that thing. No one wants to know about that thing. Do all the things like, share, subscribe, comment, rate and review is another thing that you can do, which is helpful for us. And if you want to know more about the show or this company, just like Psychic Static, what we do, what we sell, you can visit our website, psychicstatic.net. And without further ado, enjoy the show. Let me start off with that, because that's something, I know I looked at the list, but if you could run it down for me a little bit quickly of like some of the people that have recorded here so far.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've been doing it for a while, so there's been definitely a pretty long array of different bands, especially Providence bands and kind of Worcester area bands. But I guess more recent ones out of Providence would be like Mini Beast, Songbirds, Hammer Party. A lot of my bands have recorded here too, which would be Twin Foxes, Willow, and then some other Providence bands like Alpha Error, Jim Shorts, Barn Burning, Sharpest. They were a Western Mass band that I did a couple of records with. Try to think here.
Well, you don't have to name them all, but I mean, those were certainly some of the names that I was thinking of, because I knew, I was just like, I can't remember the list right now off the top of my head, but I was just like, I know I've seen a lot of bands that have been recording here.
Sure.
And from what I've heard, because I own those Mini Beast records.
Yeah.
I've been listening to your records quite a bit, the Twin Foxes. And those are great.
Cool. Thanks, man.
So I have to say this. So the record you chose for tonight was Jets to Brazil's Orange Rhyming Dictionary.
Correct, yeah.
And I've been listening to it because I have not been familiar with it. I've never listened to it before. Yeah. I've known that band, but I've just never really looked into it. I never kind of listened to their catalog or anything.
For sure.
And is it speaking out of turn to say that I like all of your projects more than I like Jets to Brazil?
That's totally cool. I mean, for me, it's a really personal record and kind of a time and place record, but also a record that kind of opened my eyes to a lot of other bands, and also just like, I don't know, I guess something special about recording. It's definitely a compliment that you said that, but for me, it's a really influential record, you know, to my musical journey, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I want to actually touch on that too, because I don't know you very much. I mean, this is the first time we're meeting, but I've known about you a lot. I've heard about the band. I've heard about the studio here.
Sure.
And from what I saw, I guess you grew up in this neighborhood, huh? This is North Smithfield,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. So basically, the property, I kind of told you earlier, but you know, it was my grandparents, and they had owned it. They lived, you know, a couple streets over, basically, and it was originally for my mom, their kids, and all her brother and her two brothers and her sister to basically build houses on when they grew up. But my mom was the oldest, so she got it first, and then you know, the property stayed with her. And probably about 8 years ago, you know, there was a shop here that basically had an upstairs that was kind of just nothing. It was just kind of a subfloor and kind of an attic space. And I had been recording a lot in Providence and kind of DIY spots, and I had mentioned to my dad that I was kind of looking around for a spot. He said, well, you know, if you want to build out the upstairs, you know, you're more than welcome to. So we started that project. He helped me do a lot of it. He had built my parents' house originally, so he was definitely, you know, he knew what he was doing. So together we, you know, built the stairs, you know, pulled the walls in, insulated the rooms, did all the finish work, and then the downstairs was kind of a shared space. He had a shop there, and I would sometimes record for like larger sound stuff down there. But then he passed away, so basically the space was downstairs was going to kind of be nothing. I mean, some of it we use for the property because I pretty much manage the entire property now because it's just my mom that lives up on the hill, and
right.
then you know, I take care of the property, so there's a lot to do. I mean, I do all the snow plow, you know, up through the winter, all that stuff. Anything for the property I pretty much have to do, so I use that space in conjunction with the studio. But basically, 3/4 of the downstairs I converted into a new live room, and that's where I basically wired up the upstairs and downstairs, and that's kind of the new addition to the studio that's kind of, I think, taken it to another level, you know, allowed me to kind of do things differently and bigger in an acoustic way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I love what I'm hearing so far.
Yeah,
I mean, to
thanks,
know
man.
that it's here in this space that some of these recordings have happened, and it's like, wow, I can imagine that if these bands were set up here right now, it would sound just as good as this right now, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I do appreciate some of the tricks and stuff, and some of the technique that you use too, because like I was listening to your record on the way up here, the Sleeping on the Attic Floor.
Yep.
On there's a track. What's the track called? Nurse Hunter.
Oh, Nurse Hound.
Nurse Hound.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning of that track, what just really stood out to me was that it kind of starts off with this like drum beat.
Yeah.
But it sounds like. Is it like a reverse snare hit?
Yeah, it's like a reverse kick and snare. And that was actually recorded downstairs by our old drummer Dylan. Before the downstairs was actually a studio, it was kind of just a raw space with just a bunch of stuff down there.
Oh, okay. Because then it pans like left to right in the speakers too.
Yeah, that was like a little trick. We and I kind of set up, you know, some room mics, and then also had some mics outside when we were recording that, so you kind of get some kind of strange kind of experimental, you know, ness to it. But yeah, that was a little trick that we did in mixing. We actually mixed that record at Machines because I've been a little more open to the idea of working and collaborating with other people on my own stuff, because generally if I'm writing, recording it, and producing it, it's kind of fun to work with somebody else and get another ear on it towards the end.
Sure.
I haven't done that with everything. It's only kind of been the last 2 records. But when I worked at Machines doing sound, I got to know those guys, and it seemed like a good pairing, so ended up doing that there. But yeah, no, I'm a super nerd when it comes to recording and, you know, little tricks and, you know, room sounds and trying maybe things a little outside the box. And we mixed that record together. I had a lot of, you know, I try to bring a lot of creative ideas into it. That's like a separate part for me. The mixing and the production is like a whole separate part than the songs themselves. And I how they all kind of meet together and
Mm.
encapsulates the whole picture. That's a big part for me.
Right. Does
Putting
it
it all
stress you
together.
out when it's like your project, or do you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a little bit. You know what I mean? I think that's why I've been collaborating with other people a little bit more, because when you have a project that big, you're really close to it, and it's hard to see it fully or clearly at a certain point.
Mhm.
Especially those records that are full length that have a lot of moving parts to them, and you spend so much time agonizing over tracking and stuff like that. You kind of want someone else just to be like, no, I think it sounds good, or we should try this or that. And
Right. But do you trust those people when they say that?
yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't do that with anybody. I ended up working with Keith and Seth for that because they've been doing it for a while, but I also felt like we had a similar appreciation for, I don't know, production on records, or they come from a similar musical library background, or something like that. I don't know how to exactly describe it, but I mean, we come from a similar area, or come from the same page, so I felt like they were good guys to work with, and I'd gotten to know them too from working at Machine, so at the time it felt pretty convenient, and
Sure.
it's right there.
Sure.
So
I mean, they are great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's undeniably that studio is awesome, and Keith and Seth both are equally kind of masters
For
of
sure.
their craft.
for sure, yeah, and it's
Um,
fun to collaborate with other guys. Like, I have a studio here, but that doesn't mean I can't go down to someone else's studio and have a good time and collaborate with them. Like, that's
course.
really fun for me. So
I find it would probably be a great learning experience too. I mean,
yeah,
just to see the different gear. I mean, just kind of get a feel for different environments, how different things work, how different people work. Like,
yeah,
the rooms, like all the different room sounds you could probably get.
yeah, and kind of one of those situations. It's fun to take what I have here and combine it with someone else's stuff, and you kind of get the best of both worlds. And I think the record only benefits, in the end from that. So,
Sure.
but it's not something that as I'm moving forward, we're working on a new record right now, and I probably will mix it myself. But especially when I was making those, I was just so busy that sometimes it's just good to step away and get another ear on it. So I'm glad we did it, on those records, and it's something that I think it's only benefited.
Mm-hmm.
We've only benefited from. So
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, your records sound great.
thanks, man.
So getting back to you a little bit about your own personal history. I mean, like, I was asking about the house and the property here because I saw that you grew up in this neighborhood.
Yeah, I basically grew up on this property. Yeah.
It was in this house, or?
Yeah, in the house. On
Oh,
top of the
okay.
hill, yeah.
Cool.
So I'm super, obviously, I grew up here and I spent a lot of time here, and it's a super special place to me. That's why I kind of didn't move away, and now I'm putting a lot of time and effort into the property, and trying to help my family out and do some better things for it here, because I just love it here. Growing up was a great experience, and it's kind of a weird part of Rhode Island. Like, it's not that far from anything, but it's pretty in the woods, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Behind the property, there's nothing until Bryant College, so you're kind of in this. Some of the woods are actually protected now by, I think it's almost national forest now. It was pretty recently, but basically it's a pretty special sliver of northern Rhode Island that I think is cool, and I like taking care of it and keeping it in our family, and kind of working on it, and I don't know, it's enjoyable.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's great. I mean, I would love to just kind of go wander around the woods.
Walk around. Yeah.
So, having grown up here, I mean, like, what? I was curious, like, where did you first fall into music? Like, did you start off as a young kid, or?
Yeah, I was pretty young, because I had an older brother. He was about he is about 9.5 years older than me, and he kind of introduced me into a lot of bands and skating and punk and stuff like that. And he was at an age where I think he was really excited about it, and I was significantly younger, but easily influenced at a young age.
Especially by such an older, cooler guy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And to hear it, music that kids in my grade would know nothing about. You know what I mean? Kind of hearing that at such a young age really opened my eyes to there's this whole other, music genres, and there's whole other kind of indie underground that average people really pay no mind to or have no idea about. And I was like, well, this stuff's way better than all the other stuff going on. So taking that idea with anything with skateboarding, or which kind of has those ideas kind of built into it too, but movies and music, all that stuff kind of like really inspired me. And it was cool that they were kind of secret. I really liked that because I kind of felt like I had something special. Like my brother had something special, and anytime I found someone that had those similar, knew about those similar things, it was instant friendship. You know what I mean? So
right. Oh yeah. Yeah. You get to pick out the freaks real easily.
Oh yeah.
You're like this is my tribe right here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this record that you chose, Jets to Brazil's Orange Rhyming Dictionary, it was released in '98. When did you first hear it?
I want to say around that time. So I was pretty young. So I'm 32 now.
Were you a fan of the other bands prior?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was, but I think I probably. So I'm trying to think. So I was probably, I was around 9 years old. And I probably heard it when I was about 10, so that all kind of lines up. I probably got into Jawbreaker a little bit after, I want to say, because this record, I mean, I was definitely aware of it. It's hard to kind of figure out the timeline there, but
sure.
I certainly, Jawbreaker is one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
But this record, for me, out of all the stuff he did, kind of was a pinnacle in my mind. And yeah, it was one of those records that stood out for reasons that at the time I just liked it. You know what I mean? I was just a kid. I was like, oh, this record's cool. Like, I couldn't tell you why, but now that I'm older, some of it starts to make more sense, and I think that's just because to me, obviously it's good, but it's also like lyrically and the playing on it's great, but also it's a super inspired record to me. Like, it's all these guys from these different bands that maybe like it's fine that they play together, but on paper, I guess it seems kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And the record they made is kind of like something no one else was doing at the time, but it just sounds really inspired to me.
Yeah.
And
did you know
unique,
did you know all of this stuff going into it, like when you first listened to it in '98?
I want to say I was probably too young to
Okay.
know about Handsome or Texas is the Reason. Like, Texas is the Reason I'm sure I'd heard, at some point, but you probably didn't know their history and whatnot. And I think one of the other guys eventually joined the band from the Van Pelt, but I don't know a ton by them still. But going into it, I probably knew about Jawbreaker through my brother because he was a big fan. But
Yeah.
that's probably all the history I knew.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I mean, I just found out about them now. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I knew the name, I knew the band. I
Yeah.
kind of like had a inkling of what they were all about.
Yeah, for sure.
But never really listened to this before, and I didn't also know the history. I kind of just learned about it just now.
Yeah.
So I'm no scholar. I by no means know this history very well, but
Yeah.
but I'm going to go off the cuff and
Yeah.
and speak about it a little bit. So '98, I was trying to figure that out. You just said you were 32, so you must have been around 13 or 14 when you heard this.
Well, 90. So I was born in '89. So if it was
okay.
'98, yeah, it would have been.
I'm doing the math wrong, then I think.
It's okay. It would have been like 9. I probably heard it when I was 10. My guess, probably didn't hear it that year.
Yeah, and so did it turn you on at 10?
Yeah, which is crazy.
Wow.
Which is crazy because I just heard a lot of I heard a lot of indie and like punk music back then that it just it inspired me. So it's kind of weird. It was probably just around me all the time, but I liked so many '90s bands. Like the first record I ever bought was Super Drag, Regretfully Yours.
Oh yeah.
Which is '96. So I was really into that then.
Okay.
So I guess that makes sense. Or like Pinkerton, and that was '96. So
Yeah. And so you were like 8 at that time?
less than that. I would have been 7.
Wow. So you were like consuming music at that young age. That's pretty
It's
cool.
pretty weird.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's like sometimes I'm like I think I'm telling it wrong, but no, that is accurate because that was.
Well, you have these timestamps. You have
Yeah.
your age, and you have when those records
for
came
sure,
out.
for sure, and Dookie too was around that time, and that was probably one of the first records. I was like, oh.
That was like '94, wasn't it? 90.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
it was like 94.
definitely liked Weezer's first record for sure, and that was '94. So
Wow.
So kindergarten-ish, listening to
That's
some of that
cool, man.
stuff. Yeah. So I mean, I was lucky. You know what I mean? I was lucky to have that music around, and but it's, you know, all of your friends are listening to that stuff. You know what I mean? Which is funny. Like, and this is one of those records that I showed to my friends, and they were just like, "What the hell is this?" But then a lot of those guys, like, even if they're like not into like indie or punk stuff, they still love this record, which is funny. Like, that I've grown up with.
Yeah, well, it's pretty unique. I mean, you know, as far as like the whole emo thing is concerned, because I think that that's kind of what this record is categorized as mostly.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it's fair to say, I guess, but it seems like it was kind of like a mile marker in the transition of that genre.
Yeah, for sure. Because he was coming off the last Jawbreaker record, you know, and they had signed to a major label.
Right.
At the time, I didn't know anything about it, but, you know, now I know that, you know, obviously that was a big deal because they were kind of against that, and to have that band end and then move on to the next thing, this kind of came out of nowhere, and I think people had very different reactions to it, and there was a lot of, you know, I don't know, 90s emo bands doing a lot of cool stuff back then, but this to me was, you know, very different and kind of very in the moment, in that history of all that kind of that genre.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Not that I really think of it as emo. I think it's kind of a weird term, but but it will certainly get categorized as that. Yeah.
Right. Well, we're kind of growing out of it, right? Because like that's the one thing I wanted to say about at least one of your bands, Twin Foxes, because I've listened to the other stuff, the Willow and the Great Western States.
Great Western States, yeah.
And those are kind of all in the same vein because they're all obviously coming from you.
Yeah.
And but I feel like Twin Foxes specifically now, especially because it's the newest thing, is kind of like a new category of emo. It's like kind of like a newer subgenre of it, I think.
Cool. Yeah.
Like it's kind of taken that and just kind of moving it a little further now.
Yeah. I mean, like, emo to me, like, all those bands that I think of, like, starting with Rites of Spring and going from there, and like, I guess Fugazi might even get somewhat lumped into that stuff. Like, those are bands I just loved, and for a while they got called emo, and then emo became something else, and now I'm not even really sure what it is, but, you know, I just think whatever it is, it's people, you know, being honest and somewhat willing to be emotional, and it usually involves guitars and drums recorded acoustically, you know what I mean? But no, I love that. I love that shit. I just like really good lyrics, and this is one of those records that really stood out to me, and you know, simple production, like, you know, I like all that stuff a lot.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get into it then.
Yeah, cool, man.
We'll play the first track off of the album, Crown of the Valley. Or is it different on the vinyl release? Thank you for bringing the vinyl, by the way.
I fucked it up. Crown.
It is, okay. So yeah, this is the opening track to the record. Orange Rhyming Dictionary, like I said, released in 1998, originally in Jade Tree. It's actually gone on to be the best-selling record that Jade Tree has ever released.
Yeah, I read about that too.
Yeah, I don't know how many
Which is
units
really cool.
that is, but that's
I don't know, but
pretty
I mean,
cool.
they had some, you know, Lifetime, Pedro the Lion.
Yeah, big acts, like
Pretty
bands that have gone
well-known.
on to be pretty good. Yeah,
pretty big indie bands.
right.
They had a really good run in the late 90s, early 2000s for sure.
So about this song, it's a decent opener, I feel. I don't know if it's 98. I don't know if it's like the time that this was being recorded and put out, or if it's just, I don't know, circumstantial. But I feel like the sound quality is a little lacking. With you being an engineer now,
Yeah.
and so even listening it back to it now, and you're in, you know, in this current, present time, do you ever, like, not even with this record, but thinking about this record, do you ever listen to it and like think like, oh, I kind of would have done something different here maybe, or like it sounded like something that you would want to fix about it?
No, not really, to be honest. It's a pretty simple, you know, production from what I can hear. I mean, it's a little bashy and bright sometimes, but like, it never deterred me from liking it. Or, I mean, I'm pretty like, unless I'm working on it, I'm pretty good at like letting myself go and not kind of like get too into it unless I want to. Is like as far as like looking for stuff and trying to dissect it and all that. But like I said, I think it's super listenable, and it's not maybe not super adventurous, but that's okay. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing I take away, and you know, getting a relaxed, inspired take is not always the easiest thing to do. So you know, that's something I always aim for when I'm recording, and that certainly comes through for me in this record, and that's the thing I remember the most probably.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next track, Morning New Disease. So I kind of spoiled myself because after my last episode talking to Mark Calhoun about the Kinks,
Okay, cool.
I was able to see exactly how much music I played, and I was playing 30 seconds.
Yeah, right on.
But the funny thing about that record compared to this is that within those 30 seconds, you get the gist of the song, like basically a verse, and then at least halfway into the chorus within the first 30 seconds.
Now with this.
No, this is a lot of area.
Oh yeah, this record, like arrangement wise, is it's pretty thick. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, with this song, similar to the last song, and the majority of the album for me personally, lyrically I'm lost. Lyrically, it's really kind of like intricate and like playful and poetic.
Yeah.
It's really hard to kind of grasp what's going on in these songs. So I did my best. But the more I listen to this, the more I ultimately feel it is like ultimately about dissatisfaction or ambivalence.
I agree.
Yeah.
Maybe just with society.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But that's what, like, yeah, like kind of a generally, like, especially from like a teen's perspective, listening to this as a teenager, that angstiness that you enjoy and you kind of look for.
Yeah.
This sense of idleness, I guess. It's like in general, it kind of seems very lethargic and kind of pissed off and aggravated.
Yeah.
So, I was wondering, do you hate being idle?
What is it?
Do you hate being idle, or do you like?
Oh, idle.
Yeah, idle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I absolutely hate it. I am. I can't sit still. Like I have a list of things I want to do every single day, and I work to try to complete all of them. I've gotten worse as I've gotten older because I kind of don't stop, and my fiance is trying to get me to be better because I will skip meals. I'll keep going until I'm almost crazy because I'm neglecting other things. But no, I 100% that person. Can't sleep good unless I got certain things done.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that much, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. I just have a lot of things I want to do, and I'm easily inspired, and I'm willing to put in the work. I like the work. The final product, sometimes I don't even care as much about than the work. I'm often told that I gotta sit back and enjoy the thing I finish, but a lot of times it's immediately on to the next thing. But that's just how I've always been.
I hear you, man. Me too. All right, so there's really a lot that could be said about this one.
Yeah.
So let me throw this one back at you first.
Sure.
Because there are so many ways. This conversation could go. Can you tell me what jumps out at you most about this title? Resistance is Futile, in relation to the world today?
Yeah, I guess you kind of almost have to succumb to how things are to some degree, because things are kind of so crazy, and we've kind of worked ourselves into such a corner with certain things, whether it's technology or politics or government or the world itself climately in trouble, that I think we're all affected by it in some way, and it's hard to ignore. So it's almost like you can't resist succumbing to some of that emotionally in some way, or being affected by it in some way, whatever that may be. That's kind of how I would think about it now. I think in this song, not to maybe jump what you were saying, but this feels like a Big Brother song to me always. Like,
There you go.
being watched, surveillance type of thing. Like, and I mean, if you're going to go the technology route, which I always can go down that road. We're certainly not private people anymore. I mean, that's over. It's long over. Right. So, I mean, if he certainly could have been predicting a few things there, and I mean, I'm sure it was already happening with the internet to some degree. And I mean, Aldous Huxley was predicting that stuff.
Right.
A long time ago too. So it's.
I mean, there's always that concept of Big Brother, because you said it exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because specifically at the end of this song, there's like that repeating refrain, isn't it? But yeah, the song ends with that whole Big Brother theme.
Yeah,
Big Brother's watching you.
You're never so small that we can't see you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that I don't so I don't think it's like unique to mention that as in regards to the whole Big Brother thing, because it's been something that's been on everybody's mind, and that anybody that thinks about it will ultimately like glom onto as a fact, is that like we are kind of constantly being monitored.
Yeah.
But especially in relation to today, and because of technology being so immersive, I mean, I'm on all these fucking devices right now, and it's just like, and
they own you.
Yeah, the idea that like even our phones in our pockets that we all have and have on us all day long can be tracked by the government or whoever, for that matter, to
seem to be listening to us.
Yeah, and seem to be hearing everything we're saying.
Yeah. That you can't deny that. I mean,
that's my best
everybody's
audience.
had that circumstance where they talk about something, and then the next thing you know, there's some ad.
Right.
I mean, it's much more than that, but it's just it's common, basically. What I mean?
Yeah, especially now. I mean, because it wasn't this bad then.
No.
But there was always that kind of like fear of like you're losing your privacy, you're losing your freedoms.
Been a lot of steps towards to where we are now.
Right.
98. I mean, the internet's
a baby.
A baby, yeah. In homes, but dial up, I would think.
Yeah,
still.
really slow connections, like really just not worth it.
Yeah.
Like kind of more frustrating to use.
Yeah, than
more
anything.
so than
especially
helpful.
Growing up here, we had the worst internet forever, so I can relate to that.
Yeah. All right, good. Because I didn't want to get too crazy on that topic, because I know that it's
we could go down.
There's potential. There's potential there to get real dark, real fast. So let's just go ahead and move on to the next song. Starry Configurations.
Yeah, it's when I think the record starts to get really good, in my opinion. I think the first 3 tracks are great, but they're kind of like laying the foundation to kind of just the vibe.
Yeah, this is when it kind of starts to get a little experimental, kind of.
Yeah, and maybe a little deeper.
Okay. Yeah, this is a good song.
Well, yeah, some good lines in it. This one always felt to me, just about a one-sided kind of relationship.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For me, I mean, so this is so this little ditty is the bummer of the album so far.
So far.
Yeah.
It gets more bummery as this dude often does.
Right. I mean, lyrically, I really do like it lyrically, like, because reading along with the lyrics while listening to this music, I think is fairly key.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I've never been a big fan of this band, nor kind of any of the bands that came from this band. But and the whole emo thing too. I mean, I think that like it kind of gets a bad rap for being, this emotional music. That it's a little kind of too hard on your sleeve. It's a little too teary and like
all
whiny.
music is emotional too, so it's
true.
It's such a funny term.
Right, right.
But yeah, I guess it's the honesty.
Yeah.
That is what is focused upon, I think, in my mind, because people that are willing to be more honest or more open than other music, your top 40 never delves too deep. It's all very basic. But this music is willing to kind of explore those other emotions that I think when this genre came out, hardcore had been around for a while, aggression, or whether it was sugary or simple, people hadn't really gone a poetic kind of deep route, and that's the good, if you want to call it emo, that 90s stuff did that well, and I think that music's interesting, and people that are willing to explore that stuff is cool to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry not to rant.
No, that's quite all right. That's why you're here, to rant. But so from what I've read, Blake, the songwriter, Blake Schwarzenbach, had written a lot of this material after the breakup of Jawbreaker. So this could be an unrequited love song for a person or a band.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll leave the context up to you, but when do you or have you felt you're most underappreciated?
Ooh, that's a good question. Most underappreciated.
From a guy that does so much, it's kind of hard to say, right?
Well, I definitely felt that way, certainly, in my life. Yeah, I mean, you know, I do this stuff regardless of if anyone ever listens to it. I do it, you know, I make records that if, you know, regardless if anyone hears them, I do it because I love to do it. But there's also a lot of work that goes into that stuff. Sometimes a ridiculous amount of work.
Of course, yeah.
That can be stressful and also super time consuming, and just you know, eventually you can be hard on yourself. You go through certain battles and the creative process. It can be draining. It's not just, you know, an ordinary task. There's a lot of decisions that go into it. So yeah, I mean, I suppose that you know, if I worked very hard on something, and I certainly have, and maybe I felt it deserved more attention, or I had hoped that more people had heard it and they didn't, that certainly can make me feel underappreciated. Not really because I'm prone to feeling that I need attention and gratification from other people, but sometimes it still sucks, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you can work really hard and you want to share it, because ultimately, though I do it because I love it and it's important to me, sharing it and whether it's having a conversation or adding something to society or adding something to music culture, like, that's important to me, because that's the reason I do it. I mean, people inspired me. I want to give back and do that as well. So certainly sometimes if, you know, a project I worked on, you know, goes unheard, especially if you work on it for, you know, say a record I worked on for a year or something like that. I mean, yeah, that sucks. That definitely sucks. And I mean, things are different now. There's so many bands. It's not like in the 90s you would just tour and, you know, there was record labels. Things are just so different now. It's almost like things are extremely stacked against you in some ways. So you take it almost less personally now. But I mean, it still can affect you. To say the one particular time in my life I ever felt like extreme, like the one specific time.
Like if one comes to mind, I mean, that's a pretty good example. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I guess there isn't like one particular time. I mean, I felt actually kind of on the last, if I'm going to be very honest, I guess the last Twin Foxes record, I probably felt a little more bummed out because it happened during COVID. So it was like, it was a hard situation to begin with. And you're not playing out, you're not, so to back it in the right way, you know, I wanted a lot more. I worked really hard on that record, so I've worked hard on all those records, but I felt like I always feel like that band will do better if more people heard it. But it's just tough nowadays, and like I'm actually in a better position to tour now, but for a while I couldn't really do it, and the guys in the band couldn't do it. But
well, I mean, you hit a very important subject, being that, you know, you released it during the pandemic.
Yeah, for
which,
sure.
I mean, I felt that too, you know, releasing the Hammer Parties record.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it wasn't just that they lost a guitarist, it was that it came out in October of 2020.
Yeah.
Which is not a great idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that would be my most recent, the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
And that's circumstantial too, but yeah, I mean, any creative stuff that you work extremely hard on, you know, like I said, it is for you at the end of the day, but you still want other people to hear it and, you know, hopefully like it, and it doesn't maybe reach or get to ears. Like, that has to, you want that to happen at a bare minimum. Even if they hate it, you want people to hear it.
Of course.
So,
all right, let's try Chinatown.
Yeah, I love that song.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one too. No, I mean, I'm you know, I don't love this record, but I like this record.
Fine.
I mean, I think that it's a good record to know, so I've been happy to kind of dig into it. I think this is just one of the stronger songs on the record. So let me think. Chinatown, I feel like I didn't really catch this one very well.
It's almost like living in your weirdness, being somewhat aware of it, but also not totally understanding it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's the thing about this song is this, like I really like a couple of lines in there where Blake uses, like, alliteration playfully.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's the example of, was my mistress messed up my mattress, I missed the catch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's like, well, what do you think may have been one of your best lyrical moments?
Musically, these are good questions. It makes me think.
It's a hard one too. I mean, you have a pretty vast catalog. I mean, between all the projects, the Great Western States.
Yeah, and even my first band, I wrote all the lyrics in. So, I think any lyrics that stand out to me are like very personal. Maybe not like the best line ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it hits you kind of like does something.
I'm also the worst guy to try to remember his own lyrics unless I'm playing my guitar, like playing the song. For me to recall lyrics, it can be kind of tough. But let me think for
because I feel like just having what I've heard, like I think there are certainly strong moments where it could be like monumental, like in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the moment, that's a really powerful way to say something with the music.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, there's some things which you would know better because you know all of the words.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, well, those are just meaningful words because like the way that they just flew, like they flow when I came up with them or something like that. Like.
Yeah.
Because I write too, or I used to. I don't really write so much anymore, but.
Yeah.
I think that for the few things that I've written, I'm just like, yeah, I could pick something out.
Yeah, I think I'll probably say there's a Twin Foxes line that is, "You're never gonna live if you let the dead dwell." And I always thought, especially when I wrote that song, I wrote that particular song, Mountain, on that record was from a while ago, and I was going through this time where I was really trying to get over some past things, and I kept telling myself that because you can't change the past. It's just a simple thing that everyone knows, but it's such a burden sometimes, and that was probably a really powerful record because it kind of summed up the record, and it kind of summed up all the things I'd been going through around that time. So that's a pretty powerful
imagery
line to me. As far maybe not the best line of all the stuff, but it's one that stands out to me. And I'm sure there's something better I'll think of later.
Yeah, and I'm sure
at this moment, that's what I'm thinking of.
I'm sure that you have fans of yours of those songs that could probably say like, well, that line I really like the most, but that's because it relates to them and relates to the way that it lands with them.
For sure.
I have a line for you in case you would ever want to use it.
Okay.
I came up with a long time ago, or a while back. I was having this really weird, depressed moment. Like, not depressed because I kind of woke up like from a dream, but like feeling oddly like not bummed out by that dream as terrible as it was, because it was actually a dream about my son dying in my arms.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it was brutal because he was like a baby at that time. Like this is when he was older. He's like 13 now.
Okay.
But in my vision, in my dream, he was like near infancy. He was like toddlerish, so smaller. And I just woke up like I didn't wake up crying, which I thought was weird.
Yeah.
But the first line that came up into my mind at that moment was this, like, the best days of our lives are behind us. Because, I think this was after Andy passed away, and it's just like...
There's a John K. Sampson line that reminds me of that, where he says, the good old days were mostly bad. Have you ever listened to him? He's the guy from Weaker Thans.
No.
Yeah, you should check him out.
Okay.
It's one of his solo records, but it just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I always thought it was a really good line.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely similar. I mean, like, because it seems true. It seems like it definitely rings true right now, where it's like, especially at my age. I mean, I'm not that much older than you, but I'm 41 now.
Sure.
And I'm reaching that point where I feel like I've lived this long and have been lucky enough to not suffer any major trauma, so it's gonna come. Like inevitably, like these things are gonna happen. I talk to my wife about this all the time. It's like, listen, if I dwell on what's wrong right now, that's gonna be pretty much like a waste of time, because when the shit really hits the fan and shit really does start happening, like that's when I'm going to need all of my faculties to deal with it.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And it takes a lot of energy to go through that heavy stuff.
Right, I bet.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because you mentioned how you lost your father, and then
Yeah.
like I'm sorry to hear
Yes,
that.
yeah.
You know, I mean, it can't have been an easy experience.
No, certainly wasn't.
Right, and that's just one of those things where it's just like that's where I feel our lives are going. It's going to be more of that.
You know, in bringing up that, I always had older parents, so it was something that I knew was going to happen for me, you know, before probably my friends I was growing up with and whatnot. And you know, it happened during COVID, which is not a great time to do it. He didn't
Oh, this
die
just
because
happened?
this happened last July.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeez.
No, I appreciate it. But yeah, so it was one of those things where luckily everything we did home hospice, you know, he had a lung problem, or basically from working around machinery most likely and whatnot. It's called pulmonary fibrosis, and he basically couldn't, his lungs basically were ceasing to function slowly, and you need oxygen, and there's no cure for it. But luckily we were able to do everything at home, and you know, he didn't go into a hospital, and I never saw him again. But I in some ways had prepared myself for a while for that, and you think you're going to feel one way when that happens, and then you feel a very different way. And in some ways, I'm glad I prepared myself and thought about it and like had certain energy for it. But in other ways, you can't. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just interesting that you brought it up because. You know, for the most part, there is a lot of big things going to happen for all of us, and you know, acquiring the energy and keeping space for the energy and learning from mistakes and building up experiences to deal with them is important. And sometimes you just gotta, if everything's okay, you kind of just gotta enjoy that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Not to go down that dark road, but
No, man. I'm just sorry to hear. I mean, it's my fear. It's something that I live with constantly in my mind. As far as just like when I go to a dark place, it's like that's where I go.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know if I can deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'm personally strong enough to deal with these things.
Yeah. I mean, I think you'd be surprised, but it's like that was the first person in my life that I was extremely close to that I lost. But my fiance had gone through the year prior with her mom. So it was like back-to-back years where we both lost a parent. And I mean, it sucks, but I think you find ways to deal with it, and then the best parts tend to stay with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you kind of, I don't know. There's always memories too, which is great, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. That's a whole. I don't want to delve too deep into that.
No, man, I completely understand. That's completely fine. I mean, we'll just move on. We'll move on to the next song.
Yeah, that's fine. Not to say that I don't enjoy talking about it, but we could probably talk about that for a while.
Oh yeah, no, trust me, dude. I'm the worst. I've got like such a broken brain. I can. Yeah, that's all right. Let's see where we land on Sea Anemone. Are you impressed? I said that right.
Yeah, it's not easy to say.
I'm impressed. So this is cool. I mean, this is just like the clear vinyl variant of the Epitaph Records reissue. Very cool.
Yeah, Jade Tree, I don't think technically is I think they were a label again for a little bit, but I don't think they are anymore.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Would you mind hitting me with a second disc? I didn't realize
Oh, yeah.
there was.
Yeah, they broke it up for
Oh, they had to. It's a long record.
sound quality.
Oh, you think this would have fit on?
Actually, I don't.
It's
I
like
don't know.
53 or 58 minutes, I think.
Is it that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little long, but very nice. Let's move on to Conrad. Brutal. Oh boy. Yeah, after reading the lyrics along with this music, it has all clicked and come completely into perspective just how dark this song is.
Yeah. Feel free to share. Sorry, I'm just reading something here.
No, that's fine. It's so it's pretty blatantly graphic, but with beautiful poetics.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of just got off the topic of darkness and you know, kind of being in dark places, but you know, unfortunately, this song is pretty deliberately speaking about a suicide. It seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the circumstances afterward have a big part in that.
Mm.
But the act, yeah, itself is, I guess, is something different. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing easy about any aspect of that.
Well, I mean, just to put this into perspective, that I'm not just some kind of like sadist asking these weird questions.
No. Not at all. I mean, I think anyone that's heard this record, it would make sense to talk about. You know,
right, but I mean, like me personally, I think about these things where it's just like I don't think about it as much anymore as when I used to when I was younger. But there's still certainly some moments where, like, I have these very strange ideas of this, like, you know what, like I could be walking down the street, like at any given point of the day, and for some odd reason I feel like there's going to be a car that just like jumps a curb and just fucking smashes me against the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm like confident that's going to happen for some reason.
Yeah.
The likelihood of that happening is not very good.
Yeah.
But that's where my brain goes sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I do this weird thing where I think if I go into some situation where I'm maybe slightly uncomfortable, I think of the worst possible thing that can happen, and then it makes me feel slightly better because it's either extremely outrageous or I'm like, oh, that's the worst thing that could happen. The thing I'm about to do is going to be not nearly as bad as that.
Right.
And it's like some weird form of anxiety, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
But
a coping mechanism even, right?
But yeah, no, but if you think about it, there's a silver lining to thinking about it, stuff like that too, because you're like, you know, you can go to a dark place and have suicide ideology and, you know, something goes wrong, well, I could just, you know, end it or whatever. But all that time you're wasting thinking about that stuff, you could get killed, like you said, just crossing the street, so you might as well live in the moment. And that's something I think when you're younger, you know, everything is life or death, but when you get older, you're like, well, you know, things really aren't that bad. You know what I mean? And that comes with age. And I think when Blake was probably around my age when he wrote this, actually. He's probably a little bit younger. I actually don't know. But
yeah, I didn't actually
early
see
30s. He might have been my age, but
could have been.
I guess if you think about things that way, you know, it's a reminder to almost be in the moment because anything could go wrong at any moment. So you might as well live carefree and do what you want to do because it could end at any time, whether you choose or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. So the next song is King Medicine. I think maybe I could skip this one because I don't even really have a good question for it.
Okay.
It's you know.
This is it. I'll just say that anyone that's never listened to this record, this is one of my favorite songs on it.
Oh, King Medicine, is it?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay,
No, it's
we'll
okay.
have to play
No, it's okay. I'm just saying it's got like the end of the song, how it changes. It's just like a great part. It's just.
All right. Well,
it's just heavy to me.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, you actually hit it.
Yeah. That
really good drum and bass on that.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a good drummer.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Drummers are like kind of my favorite part about bands right now. Like if you have a great drummer, I'm digging your fucking band.
Mm-hmm. As someone that played drums in a band for a while, I could definitely go down that road easy. I could just like forget everything else about it and just like the drums are sick.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of like a not dumb way to look at it, but like I can go down that road all day.
Well, I mean, it's just
I love drums.
It's the backbone to the music, really.
It's just rhythm. There's just something about tasteful rhythm. It's just awesome.
Sure. So, I mean, the only thing I wanted to say about this song just is that it just seems like a very kind of cut and dry depiction of, well, not cut and dry, actually. It's actually kind of a poetic and kind of flowery way of acknowledging drug addiction. Because I think King Medicine is actually a like personification of drug addiction.
Yeah.
The way that he uses it lyrically in the song.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that was pretty cool. That was the only kind of part about this song, but you know, at the same time, it has to do with drug addiction, and I don't really have any questions for you about drug addiction.
Yeah, and I've never been addicted to heroin or anything like that. But
well, good.
No, for sure. I mean, there's like this is just kind of Lyrically, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just like some good word choices in this song. And this song just has more of like a kind of a rocking kind of band feel to me that I kind of always, to some degree, I kind of shut out the lyrics and kind of always just like got into the song just from like a musician kind of standpoint.
Yeah, with good reason. I mean, it's a good song.
Sure.
All right. Well, so the next song should be "I Typed for Miles."
Yeah.
Let's see what we find.
Yeah, this is my favorite song on the record.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because so what I learned about this song doing some of the research was that it was inspired by a scene from the film in Barton Fink.
I watched that movie like 3 weeks ago. I've seen it before, but
Yeah.
Cindy had never seen it. My fiance, so we watched it.
Oh really? Cool.
I love that movie. I'm a big Coen Brothers fan, but that is one of the weirder Coen Brothers movies if you've ever seen it.
Okay. Well, so we already touched on it because considering, your description of the movie and kind of putting that into perspective, I knew there was something about that. And obviously the content of the music, it seemed, I was just like, I think the easiest connection I can make here is that the speaker sounds to be a bit of a workaholic. Yeah. And I've already got into that with you. Clearly, you are a workaholic.
Yep.
All right, so let's get, in closing, let's move on to the last song, Sweet Avenue. I go, oh wow.
I go, oh wow. One thing good point to end on.
So we just listened to the last song, Sweet Avenue, really a little section of it. Basically, the only thing that you can really say about this song is that it seems that the singer, I'm going to just assume that it means Blake, has finally found love.
Yeah, it sounds like it's 100% a love song. There's no doubt about that.
So he has finally found love. Have you?
Yeah, I thankfully have. I've been with someone for almost 9 years now, and we're going to get married next year. So
wow.
Yeah, I don't every day feel like maybe this song, but we've been together for a while, and I'm very much in love. But this song is I think a like instant or the moment where you fall in love, maybe. Or that initial butterfly kind of stomach nervous kind of thing that
these beginnings,
which is a really cool feeling.
Yeah, and unfortunately you'll never get that feeling again.
Which is funny when you've been with someone for a while. Yeah,
right.
You get it in other ways, but
right.
There's other rewards, but
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been married now for fucking. In October, we'll have celebrated 12.
Yeah, that's a lot.
12 years of marriage, but we've been together for like 14.
Yeah. So we took the slow route as far as the marriage goes, but
yeah, it's the same thing though. I mean, you're pretty much up there. It doesn't really change, I don't think.
No. We definitely have went through a lot of life things together too. So it's been, I feel like when we get married, nothing's really going to change. Just be legal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no, there's a lot of great lines in this song that have always stuck out to me.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's actually, so with that being said, it's the perfect way to button up this album because it seems like through all of the progressions.
Darkness, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like darkness and weirdness and frustration and like anxiety, whatever it is that he's been feeling, all of these things have led up to this moment where it's kind of like the happy ending.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a really cool record in that sense because we kind of painted a little bit of a picture, but yeah, you're right in the sense where it starts out on the angsty side and then kind of delves into a darker realm, and then really dark, and then finds its way out of it, which is, I guess if there's any concept to it whatsoever, that's kind of the one there, the flow of it.
Yeah.
So.
And so now, what's going on with the band? I know that you mentioned that you guys are finishing up a new record for Twin Foxes, at least. I don't know about any of your other projects.
Yeah, right now, at Twin Foxes, as far as my stuff goes, we recorded our third full length in June. We did all the basic tracking in June, and then I've been layering guitars on ever since. And I'm like, I have like 3 more songs to go for guitars, and then it's vocals, and then some extra little things, and that's pretty much it. We tracked this one entirely live, so no overdubs as far as the basic tracking goes, which we've never done. So every record we've done has been different. So 7-inch was live, but like scratch guitars and went back over everything. Second record was all multi-tracked with like, for the most part, like clicks and stuff like that. And then the third record, Broken Bell, was mainly just me, because we didn't have a drummer at the time. Me and Andrew and Trevor did play some guitar on it, but so that was all multi-track. This one was just like as live as we could get it, just very rehearsed. Like we were thankful we could rehearse through quarantine and stuff like that. So, so I'm really excited about this one. I feel like it's my favorite one we've done.
Cool. And tell me. So I think the first record, "Sleeping on the Attic Floor," was released by Tor Johnson.
Yeah, Tor Johnson and Midnight Werewolf, which is a Boston label. He's done a bunch of Boston bands, so they kind of did a co-release with that.
Yeah. Okay. And the last record was.
The last one we released digitally during quarantine, and we did a crowdfund basically for the vinyl. So we raised money for that. We're still working out some of the details for the vinyl. It's probably going to be a pretty limited release, maybe like 100. We were going to do 300, but I think we might just do 100. But we're working out the details. Like COVID just like messed kind of everything up, and then all the pressing plants are like really far behind right now.
Okay.
So we have enough donations to get it pressed, but hit a couple snags. So we're working that out. So that record's probably going to come out. My best guess right now is sometime in the spring, just because of how delayed everything is.
Yeah.
But that'll be out physically on vinyl. But then this record, I'm sure will probably be done by then, and we'll be trying to figure out what we're going to do. What we're going to do this next time for this third record. But then there's other little side projects going on too. The end of this month, some friends of mine from the bands Holiday Music, Soft Fangs, and this band Kittner out of Boston. The friends of mine I've had for a while. We're all going to get together, and they're kind of guys that are generally like the leaders of their band, but we're going to get together, and we've been friends for a while. We're just going to try to spend a weekend and try to make an EP or something like that. So there's no name for that. And then a friend of mine from this band Boring, which was from Providence for a while, he moved away. But I played drums on a project called Snuffed Out that we recorded, I think, 4 songs, and those are almost done. So there's been some other kind of little things here and there, side projects with friends and whatnot. But,
that's cool. In addition to running the studio and having bands come in here all the time.
Yep, doing all that stuff, mixing, mastering, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Are you open for business? Like, are you looking for more clients, or are you kind of jammed up right now?
Yeah, for sure. No, there's always room for more. I'm always down to take on more projects.
Yeah.
Recording a few bands right now. I've been doing a lot of mastering work lately, but some bands will be coming in soon. Should be doing the next Darklands record. They're a Providence band that I'm pretty excited about. They're good friends of mine. And then Hammer Party will be finishing up there. And there's some other stuff coming down the line. So
yeah,
there's always stuff going on. But yeah, I'm always open to working with other people and collaborating. So
cool. Yeah, I mean, hey, I will attest that this is a really cool spot. I mean, I haven't recorded here, but I've heard a lot of the recordings from here.
Yeah.
And just a really great little spot, man.
Thanks, man.
Great little studio, and just really comfortable.
Yeah.
Looks like it would be a great time just kind of hang out here for like a whole day and just kind of like play music and just have a good time.
Yeah, it's in the woods, and I'm happy I got to do it here because it's a special place for me, but it's a really good environment to kind of forget about the outside world and kind of just, you didn't get a chance to see the property, but I mean, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere to some degree, so you can kind of do what you want and get lost and be creative. Yeah, for
I'll
sure.
come back with a hammer party or something, and then like
Yeah.
they'll be busy, and I'll be like, I'm just gonna wander.
Yeah. There's some cool stuff back there. There's even an abandoned a colonial ghost town if you walk back far enough.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so that's a whole other
All right.
topic.
I'll make a video. Like, bring the cameras.
It's a little bit of a hike, but it's not too bad. I'd be down to take some people there. It's fun.
Okay, that sounds cool, man. Sure, we'll do it.
Sweet.
All right, Jared. Well, hey, thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great, man. Like I said, I mean, if you listen to a record for that long, and I don't listen to this record every day, obviously, but I come back to it time to time, and I listened to
Of
it a
course.
lot when I was younger. But it definitely brings up some memories, and I can see different stages of my life listening to some of these songs and kind of my different what I was drawn to, and kind of jog some memory.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, I'm glad that I can kind of help in
Yeah, it's
a
cool,
little
man.
degree.